Welcome, everybody, to Indivisible Texas Lege Live. We are here with an amazing panel of guests from indivisible group leaders and activists all throughout Texas. My name is Alexander Montalvo. I'm super excited to be joined by Jasmine Tolhurst. Jasmine, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I'm excited for this conversation. What about you?
I am excited. It's a super important and relevant one.
Well, we want to go ahead and introduce our panelists before we jump into this conversation. So, Jasmine, I'm going to hand this off to you.
All right. So today we have Buddy Luce with Indivisible TX24. Hey, Buddy, glad to have you here.
Good to be here.
Thanks. Indivisible SATX, we have Jane Reale and Jan Reale, Jane Warsaw. Hey, ladies. We have Daniel Cohen with Indivisible Houston.
Hey, Jasmine.
Hey, Daniel. And then with Indivisible Austin, we have Ted Clem, Gill, and Miss Natalie Ball.
Hi there.
Hey, y'all.
Definitely great to see everybody. I know everyone's been working really hard for the stuff we're going to be talking about today. So huge kudos to all of you. For our audience out there, you may be wondering, well, what are y'all talking about? I see "Don't Mess with Texas Voters" in the post. Well, let me explain that for all of you. So in April, we applied for a GROW grant with Indivisible National to help support some efforts where we are really concerned about our democracy with what we're seeing in Texas. And so the Don't Mess with Texas Voters kind of 18-month plan was developed and formed, and it involves 12 different indivisible groups throughout the state of Texas. And we'll be partnering and collaborating with so many different progressive allies throughout the state of Texas as we do several different events and participate in several different things. This is a 3-phase project where we are looking to do a couple of different things. Number one, we want to advocate against the bad bills that we saw in the Texas legislature, which we did with SB 7 and HB 6, and we've worked with a lot of different partners pushing back against those bills. But we also have indivisible groups that are focused at the state level. At the federal level. For Indivisible Texas Lege, we focus primarily at the state level. But there's a complementary effort being done at the federal level with HR and S1 and 4. And so we want to make sure that our indivisible group leaders that are focusing at the federal level are continuing to get that support to push for voting rights legislation. So at the state level, we're pushing against bad voter suppression legislation. And at the federal level, we have partners pushing for voting rights legislation. The next thing we're going to be focused on in this 18-month project is mobilizing around redistricting. We have a second special session that's going to be happening in the state legislature around the census data and the redistricting process. And then finally, we want to carry that momentum after these two major things that are happening throughout our state and our country to communicate to Texans, to hold elected officials accountable for anybody who voted for voter suppression, who voted against voting rights, and who voted for gerrymandered maps. And we want to make sure that Texans know that these elected officials participated in this. And right now, it's looking like this is primarily going to be coming from the Republican Party because they are the ones who are adamant on pushing on all these fronts for voter suppression, not supporting voting rights, and pushing for gerrymandered maps. And so we got a lot of work in front of us in the next 18 months, but the key message we want to give to every elected official in Texas, and we want to encourage Texans to be a part of, is don't mess with Texas voters. And we have a complementary message to that. Texas deserves better. And so the leadership we're seeing is not the leadership that's going to help us solve the problems we have in Texas. That include a few things like an electric grid that just has a desire to fail frequently based on the strain of what is happening with that. We have a lot of things for public education. We need Medicaid expansion. We need to reverse the attacks on reproductive rights, the attacks on the LGBTQIA plus community, and many more things. And so Texas deserves better because we need leadership that's going to help us solve these problems. In order for us to get those leaders, though, we need a vibrant and healthy democracy. Because if we are not able to participate fully in the process of electing these officials, and if there are going to be methods to suppress those efforts, then that makes it much harder to solve these problems. So with that introduction to the Don't Mess with Texas Voters, we highly encourage you to be a part of this. We want every Texan to participate in as much as they can. And we're going to be highlighting some things that you can do starting this week. But before we jump into that, Jasmine, I think we have a couple of questions we want to ask our panel.
Yeah, absolutely. As Americans, we say that we love democracy, that we value our democracy, and in a democracy, each person gets a vote. One person, one vote, and that is a democracy. And so it seems really wild that voting rights has become a partisan issue, because in a democracy, whether it's a two-party system or a multi-party system, if we have a democracy, we have this fundamental belief that each person deserves one vote so that we can all have a shared voice to determine what the will of the majority is. That being said, why do Texans need to be concerned about voting access?
Who of our panelists would like to jump in on that question?
Well, I'll take a stab at that. I think number one, because our voting rights are under attack, we have just seen a bill that would shave off the ability to vote easily for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. That's Senate Bill 7. And even though that did not pass the legislature, the regular session, the 87th session, it's no doubt coming back in the special session. It hasn't been announced yet, but that's a big concern. So it's coming, and we need to oppose it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that failed attempt we saw during this regular session you're mentioning, Jan, where Texas Democratic legislators did a walkout so that they could break quorum, and the final vote could not be placed. And there was a lot of frustration with the process of how that bill was moving forward during the regular session. And so, yeah, the governor has already said he wants this back in the special session. It's one of his major priorities.
That was behind closed doors that they talked about that, adding things that no one had ever talked about in any of the hearings, whatever. And it was at the last minute, 67 pages to read in 67 seconds.
Who else on our panel would like to jump in on this? Jasmine, would you like to repeat the question for all of them?
Why should Texans be concerned about voting access? So we know that the governor sets the agenda for special session and was very upset with Democrats walking out. He even said that he was going to veto their entire pay for the next 2 years because they walked out due to the lack of debate over that final bill. Why should Texans be so concerned about that?
I'll jump in if that's all right. I mean, something that's worth talking about with SB 7 here are some of the things they tried to do. Early on, they discussed potentially making people prove their disability through official forms, which would not only be an extreme violation of their personal rights, but obviously would be extremely prejudiced as well. We also saw that there were attempts to basically enable provocateurs and operatives from mostly white neighborhoods to go into black and brown neighborhoods and directly intimidate and harass Black voters. As you can hear, Jack Chi is also in opposition to SB 7 as well. But the point is that there were, I mean, we're talking about We're talking about, in a lot of ways, historically and culturally here, the southwest corner of the Confederacy and the commercial capital of the southwest corner of the Confederacy. And these folks have a very clear ideology, and that's an ideology of white supremacy, which is why there's this massive movement for Jim Crow 2.0. It's not as though this was come up with in Texas. We know where redistricting efforts come from. We know where voter suppression efforts come from. They're model bills that are pushed by Heritage Action and by the American Legislative Exchange Council, which is basically peddlers and thugs and corporatists who attempt to represent big business interests by shoving legislatures. It just so happens that the Texas legislature and the Texas government is the easiest route for them to go, because big business interests have done everything they can to try to turn this into a plantation state, which is why our grid failed, as Alex mentioned earlier, and which is why we have all of this curtailing of civil rights that's going on. So why should Texans be extra worried? Because Texas is the place where it's easiest for them to push this stuff through the channels as a government is currently constituted. It's despicable, it's disgusting, and Dan Patrick and Greg Abbott are blood merchants. And that's why you should be concerned.
I can jump in real quick and answer that question, or at least give another way to look at it. I'm primarily concerned about it because of the not just because it's normal, good old racist voter suppression and voter intimidation and purging and making it hard to vote, but it's actually when we organize, when we register people, when we walk blocks, when we get out to vote, they've set up a scenario where they are removing the independence of the people counting the votes and the Secretary of States, and setting it up for just a allegation, not any proof of fraud, to where someone, the legislature or an independent, or someone appointed to make this decision who is not independent can decide who wins. So in effect, they're trying to make it so that we can have all these elections, we just can't ever win one. So that's why you should be concerned about voting. And that's why, other than just fighting it here in the State House, we need to make sure we pass the For the People Act, John Lewis Voter Advancement Act, and figure out some way to limit the ability of states to create systems that allow for elections to go their way, no matter whether they get the most votes or not.
Absolutely. And Jane, you had raised your hand earlier.
Yes. Well, yeah, to all the things that everyone's said so far, but also I get really, really concerned about poor people and people of color. And, we had a great turnout for the 2020 in general. The 2020 election had very, very high voter turnout. But in comparison, that little southeast corner or any other of San Antonio and any other areas of San Antonio that are not necessarily predominantly, but have a high percentage of people of color that live in those areas. Okay, there's people like us who really get tuned into everything that's happening, but how many people are totally not tuned in to what's going on in our city and obviously everywhere else? So my concern is how do we reach those people? Can we encapsulize ultimately what winds up in SB 7 in such a way that we can do some serious points out of that bill and just ask people, hey, you can't vote before 9 o'clock in the morning and after 9 o'clock at night. And does that affect you? Those kinds of questions, so that and to try to possibly get some of our senators and House of Representatives involved in that discussion, so they can take back to the legislature, hey, these are real concerns from people, and also, just raise the awareness of people who are going to be most affected by these problems.
Yeah, you bring up the shift, like the hours changing, which really affects shift workers, which is,
Exactly.
such a large group of people, especially in our area of Houston. I'm from Houston. Gil.
Thank you. I grew up, here's why I'm really invested, and I hope a whole bunch of other people are invested in shaking up Texas so that we can get everyone who needs to vote and who is eligible to vote. I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley, and I had 2 teachers slap me for speaking Spanish. One of them also spit in my face. I remember being sent to the back of a Greyhound bus because I was Mexican. And I remember seeing KKK folks lined up on the King Ranch Road, Highway 77, so that they could wave at passersby, especially migrants. And what is happening today, in my opinion, is no different. There are a lot of people out there in our government, Abbott, GOP, who are labeling voters who will vote against them as criminals, rapists, drug addicts. I am so sick and tired of the fear tactics that they're using. I want to fight back. That is such horrible, despicable spit onto the Constitution that Abbott and his minions are up to. I am done with that. I need to fight and encourage all of us to fight back.
I want to add something to that too. It's time that we live up to our reputation in the world as a free and fair elections in a government that is for the people, run by the people. And I think we keep losing ground on that, and they keep slapping other labels on it. And it seems to me like if you're for that, then you're going to be called, you're going to be called a socialist or a communist or whatever thing that they can slap on it now. And that's what I'm most frustrated with, is that it looks like our experiment is failing with these types of bills that are coming across that are making it more difficult and more difficult to vote. Every time we gain some ground, it's like they take that data and they turn it upside down and create a bill that wipes that away. That's why we need to stand up, I think.
I'll interject now. I'm Ted, and I'm the newest member of Indivisible in Texas. I've lived in Austin for less than 2 weeks. So I left Mississippi because of the extreme amount of white intolerance and bigotry and conservatism there. And I had a choice, and I wanted to live in an environment here in Austin, which was far more tolerant, broad-minded, and multiracial, multicultural, I should say. And I've had a life of privilege as a white man, and I know that. And I feel now at age 75, it's my duty to stand up for our democracy. It's our democracy means the most to me, and all the people that have given their lives for it, to hand it over to these Republicans who want to turn this and take the voting rights away from the people, all the people, only the people they want to have the rights, and to establish an intolerant, plutocratic, white supremacist, and authoritarian government just irritates the heck out of me.
Thank you all. Thank you all for those perspectives. Yeah, and it's crazy because even if you did want to vote for them, they're making it harder. And so next question, because I talked to my friends about taking actions and, you know, getting involved. Hey, we have this rally. Hey, call out your legislator. It's gonna, you know, this is gonna be really bad for all of us, all of our communities. And it seems like people don't really understand, like, does it even matter? Is it even gonna move the bar for them to get up and do anything? And my answer is like, well, if you lose everything, you don't know what you have until it's lost. And wouldn't it be really bad if we lose it? But what is y'all's perspective when people are asking, you know, does it even matter to take these actions or to call my legislator or say anything, try anything?
I'll go if I'm.
Go for it.
Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, so I think my best answer for that is when Indivisible started, did anybody that was involved then actually think that the ACA wasn't going to be overturned? Did anybody actually think that we were going to win that and that the ACA wasn't going to be repealed and that that was dead in the water? And so we got together and we fought and we showed up at town halls and we showed up everywhere, and lo and behold, we won something that we never thought we would win. So that.
And what is the ACA?
The Affordable Care Act, Obamacare.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, in 2017, when Indivisible started, that was the promise. That was what the election was about, and it looked like that we were doomed, and healthcare was not going to be something that people could rely on. So that's my answer: is just keep plugging away and keep using your constituent power and showing up and making calls and doing what it takes. That's all.
Thanks, buddy. What do you think, Jan?
Well, I was just going to say that one person can make a difference, but lots of one persons make a bigger difference. So when you have people standing up and making noise and calling and writing and holding events, that can make a difference. We can't rely on someone to rescue us. We have to rescue ourselves. We have to stand up and fight.
Thanks, Jan. What do you think, Daniel?
Well, look, I mean, the politicians are not going to be the ones who are going to defend democracy at the end of the day, although many of them are saying the right things right now at rallies, right? But at the end of the day, it's going to rest on the people because that's where all of the power is vested. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is Indivisible as a movement was based on the idea that you could apply local defensive political pressure to your own congressional representatives, and it worked extremely well. And it always has worked extremely well. A lot of people say, why should I call Ted Cruz's office? Why should I call John Cornyn's office? It's not going to change conversations. And there's two things to know about that. One, even if you don't necessarily believe that, it certainly is taking time for them to actually address your concerns. And time is power resource. And taking power resources away from people who mean to do us harm is effective. And secondly, it changes more conversations than you think it does, because staffers eventually have to put their arm around their bosses and say, I'm sorry, but it's over. You lost the political fight. Now, I know you're going to go out there and posture so that your friends over at Breitbart and One American News Network and everywhere else are still going to be your friends after this, but the fight is over. So come up with your excuse for why this bill isn't going to happen from your perspective, and we can shut it all down. But having said all of that, if somebody is asking you, why should we act? It doesn't make a difference anyway. You should probably listen to them more than give them any kind of immediate response, because there are a lot of people that feel that way, and we need to hear out where they're at so that we can find ways for them to act. Part of the reason that they feel that way is because democracy has been undermined for years by giant mega corporations, by people who want to enrich themselves on the backs of people who are poor and people who don't have access to resources and the resources that they need to have a life of dignity. And so we need to meet people where they are. If they're asking you that question, that's because they think that our political process isn't working as it should. And you know what? They're right.
Thanks, Daniel. Gil, I saw your hand pop up over there.
Yeah. Even if it feels, or if a part of me believes that my voice doesn't count, why should I stop? And why should I not speak up? If I see injustice, if you all out there see injustice, we have a choice. Quiet and let the smoke go up in the chimneys and we smell the horribleness of it, or we go out there and try to put the fire out, try to create some justice. I'm going to speak up, even though there may be parts of me that are saying you're not strong enough. You're not going to be able to affect change. Well, you know what? We can. And this is our time. This is a grassroots organization. We have power that elected officials do not. We have our voice, and I'm not going to give up. You know, Jasmine, no way am I going to give up. I'm going to keep talking, even if I'm discouraged, because we got each other. And for those of you who are out there listening and are thinking, oh man, I don't know if I can do, yeah, you can. Just join us. Together we can do this.
Like, we gotta stay together, because I need messages of hope like that on a daily basis. Ted, go for it. Oh, you muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
I was raised in the 1950s, so World War II left a large imprint on my life. And to think two things. Number one, so many Germans stood on the sidelines as Hitler and the Nazi Party took over Germany. I think it's just criminal not to stand up. And then the second thing about World War II was Chamberlain's appeasement of Hitler. Again, weakness. So I think it's important for us individuals and the smaller groups, say in Indivisible and other groups around here, to make their voice known to other people. Eventually, if enough people stand up, it will start to grow on the rest of the good-hearted community. So I think it's would be my goal, is to try to bring others along by being forceful and bringing out the misattributes of the Republican attacks on democracy.
Absolutely. Jane.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, Gil. I'm totally with you. I'm concerned, and I guess this is part of what I said earlier, is who are we trying to reach? You know, are we talking to, are we preaching to the choir when we get out there and do our stuff? I mean, everybody, everybody I know and everybody I have during the pandemic, I have become close to through Zoom, with these meetings. I mean, I know everybody from the head up in my group. Today I met with somebody says, "Oh, I've never seen your whole body before." Okay, fine. Anyway, I'm concerned about getting out into the trenches and doing block walking or doing multilingual Spanish and English, things. Just set yourself up somewhere in a park or whatever, and try to get people that don't normally hear this kind of stuff, to get them to realize that they're getting screwed, and that voting is not just a privilege, it's an obligation. And I think that will speak well to a lot of different people and races and colors and whatever, that it's your job to do this. It's not just, if this is your only way of speaking up for yourself, is by voting and getting other people around you to realize that you're getting screwed, So that's my main thing right now. It's like, I want to get out there and talk to people, people who don't hear this message, who don't read it in the paper, who don't watch the news in this way. You know, I haven't watched Univision in a long time. I don't know what kind of, I got to do that. I got to figure out what the Spanish speaking stations are, how they're talking to their people, you know, because I haven't done that in a while. So I want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there were bills this legislative session that I told people had passed, and they said, well, I would have never thought that would have passed. I said, I wasn't encouraging you to call your legislator because it wasn't a possibility or a potential reality. Natalie.
Oh, I wanted to say is history shows us that one of the easiest things to do to control people in a democracy is take their vote away. And once your vote is taken away, that's it. And it's been done in every democratic government except for ours. And, you know, like Ted pointed out earlier about Nazi Germany, it's been done in lots of different countries around us. And once you take someone's right to vote away, they have no say, and it's going to be hard to get it back. So that's one of the worst things, you know, that could happen to us. So that's why we need to stand up now, especially for this, so that we do have a say in everything else that comes down the pike.
Absolutely. The fight is real. So Alexander, you have some events going on around the state. Is that right?
So yeah, we all have some events going around the state, which I'm so excited to share. And just to kind of recap, you know, we started off asking our panel the question, you know, do Texans need to be concerned about voting? And the resounding answer was yes. We need to be concerned because of all of these efforts that are happening and the efforts that we've been pushing against and the efforts that we're trying to push for when it comes to voting rights. And the second question is, does it matter if you take action? And once again, it's yes, it does matter if you take action or are a part of it. So across the state of Texas, we have several events for you to participate, to take action, so that we send the message to our elected officials that don't mess with Texas voters, and Texas deserves better. So we're going to go around the room really quick just to highlight some of these different events that are coming up. And I'm going to kick it off with Daniel from Houston. I know we're still pending the Facebook event for you guys. And as soon as we have it, we'll post it in our post and we'll be sharing it multiple times. But feel free to go ahead and highlight what you guys are doing in Houston and what date that's going to happen.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's set up now. So we'll have the link out here for you. I sent it over to Lauren and I can grab it for you too. But we'll be gathering for democracy to support the For the People Act along with other people. We know at this point that that's the most important thing that we can do related to SB 7. There should be national waves of people who are doing things, not just these sort of statewide actions, but things that are follow-up actions as well and pressuring all kinds of different targets. But in particular, we'll be calling on the congressional delegation and the general public to support the For the People Act at 2000 Banks on July 3rd at noon. So if you show up on 2000 Banks, July 3rd at noon, we'll be there. It'll give us an opportunity to, we have some banners in solidarity with those who are around the state of Texas. And we're looking forward to showing people that it's time for them to support this. And this is specifically what they should be doing. Big believer in street actions, big believer in making sure that we're visible as a movement and showing what people need to support. But that's one more time, that's 2000 Bank Street. We're gathering at noon on July 3rd, this coming weekend. It's supposed to be a patriotic weekend. So here you go. We're trying to make sure that people are able to live lives of dignity in the United States. So that's a good way to celebrate, I think.
Absolutely, Daniel. And thanks for sharing. I've got the link sharing with everyone so they see the graphic. We'll add the link to our post so everyone will have it as it's being shared around. Really excited to see Austin continue to take action. The work that y'all have been doing since y'all's formation has always been inspiring, and leaders are definitely hearing from y'all. And it is putting them on notice, and it is causing them to have uncomfortable conversations and to recognize that there are people in their community that are ready to hold them accountable. And so thank you so much, Daniel, for you and all the amazing groups that work together in Houston. All right. Well, we're going to jump next to San Antonio. Y'all have 2 events coming up. I'm going to pull up this first one that's for Friday that we have in our post. Jane, would you like to tell us some details about this one?
Sure, I'll be happy to. And then Jan, maybe we can both deal with Saturday, talk about Saturday. Okay. This event will be at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it will last probably for a couple of hours. We're going to meet at 600 Navarro Street, probably hang out on the street for a bit till people show up. Then we're going to go upstairs and go to Cornyn's office and talk to his staff and give him our spiel, whatever that happens to be that day. And then we're going to go back down, and we'll be on the street for a while, trying to get people's attention. I guess that's it, really. And then on Saturday, we're going to be on the Riverwalk, right in this area that you can see in the photograph. Over here on the back left-hand side is the Hyatt, and next to it is the Convention Center and the Lila
Cockrell.
Thank you, Lila Cockrell Theater. So we're going to be able to throw a banner over that wall. Let's go back a little to the top. We're going to be able to throw a banner over this wall here for the people on the Market Street to see. And we're going to loop the 2 banners that we're getting together and drape one over that wall. And then on the inside wall, we'll have the other banner so the people on the plaza can see the banner from as well. We're gonna have water. We're gonna bring ponchos in case it rains, and we're probably gonna have some handouts for people. I don't think there's going to be enough time to do voter registration, Jan. I know that's something we weren't going to be out there for any more than an hour because it's going to be hot as hell. But let's reconsider that and talk about that.
Okay.
So it's a beautiful spot. It's right, the Riverwalk is, right down over those, right down over us. And we're hoping more to just attract the people that are coming into town and people who are just regular old folk who went down to, during the July 4th weekend to celebrate fiestas.
Yep. Awesome. Jan, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, we're really excited about this event. We have a tentative RSVP from Diego Bernal, who's a Texas representative, and this is his district. He's not sure yet. He has a young daughter, so sometimes, depending on what the needs are for son, sometimes he comes a little bit late, something like that. But we're expecting a staff member from Congressman Lloyd Doggett's office to come and read a message from Congressman Doggett. Actually, he has one of those gerrymandered districts that's both in Austin and in San Antonio. And this is his district as well. So we're really excited about his representation there. And then we have just regular old San Antonio folks like us who care about what's going on and want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to vote if they are eligible, and that they have the opportunity to speak up about it when they learn of the difficulties that SB 7 would cause. It may have a new number during the special session, but I suspect we'll see some familiar pieces of it.
Yeah, we definitely anticipate a new bill number for it, but they'll have to go through the process, and so we'll be working hard to stop them as they go through those steps. So huge shout out to San Antonio. 2 great events. They look amazing. Excited for people to show up for those.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that to invite everyone, stop by. It's only for an hour. come and see the beautiful Riverwalk and the beautiful banners that Indivisible Texas Lege has arranged for us, and support the For the People Act and HR 4, the John Lewis Act, at the federal level, which can help us reduce the impact of SB 7 as it returns, whatever number it has. So we need the help from the folks in DC at this point.
Awesome. Thanks, Jane. Awesome. Excited for San Antonio. Next up, we have our Dallas event. Buddy, you want to talk to us about this?
Sure, happy to. So we have an event at John Cornyn's office Saturday, the 3rd, 10 a.m., 10 to 11. We've got Candace Valenzuela, who ran for Texas 24 against Beth Van Dyne, speaking, and Carrie Stewart, who is Dallas representative for showing up for racial justice. And I'm hoping to get one or two members in Texas 24 or DFW area to also, I'm working on another one of them or two to come by so that we can give honor and homage to our Texas Dems who got us national recognition for the need to pass the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And since we're Texas 24, we historically concentrate way more as an indivisible group on Cornyn and Cruz and the member of Congress for Texas 24. We're hoping and going to use this event to combine both going to war to stop SB 7 or whatever the number is, and then really putting pressure on Cornyn to vote for the passage of the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. So, and I'm pretty sure that we've got two different members that are really love to do banner drops, or we call it Bridge Brigade, or we call it Alphabet Resistance. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if we don't end up having at least one banner, bridge, alphabet resistance event before recess is over on July 10th. So maybe sometime between the 3rd and the 10th, we'll pop up another event. So all of y'all in Texas also can check out events on Deadline for Democracy too, which is a national coalition of almost 100 progressive activist organizing groups that are all pushing during the recess for the passage of the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. So there you go.
Awesome. Thanks so much, buddy. Excited for the turnout that's going to be there in Dallas from the DFW area. Next up, we have two events also happening in Austin. We have the Don't Mess with Texas Voters Austin banner drop happening this Thursday at 4 o'clock. Who from Austin would like to speak about this event?
Is that the one on Thursday?
Yeah, on Thursday at 4.
Let's see. Pull this one up. Okay, so that's going to be at Congress in Riverside. It's going to, and we're going to have a rally for democracy there, and then the banner drop is going to be over 35 and 11th Street overpass.
Awesome. So we definitely want to see people there starting Thursday at 4 o'clock for this banner drop. And then the second event that Austin is doing is a Deadline for Democracy march around Senator Cruz's office Saturday at 10 a.m.
We're going to have banners and signs about democracy. Don't mess with Texas voters. It'll be, like you said, at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and we'll be demonstrating in front of Senator Cruz's office. And then it'll be a march around the block.
Awesome.
So looking forward to having lots of people come out there.
Oh, and I can't wait to just sit in front of that little office and have, just Ted Cruz, Lion Ted, or what is it, Flying Ted? Oh, come on, bring it on. Please join us. This is going to be fun. We're going to honor Ted Cruz's racist attitudes and ways.
Well, very exciting to see Texans organizing across the state. This is what some indivisible groups have been working on in preparation for 4th of July. We just celebrated Juneteenth and the freedom that national holiday and now a national holiday recognizes. And I've got to give a huge shout out to Fort Worth, where I'm at, to Opal Lee for all of her advocacy for that holiday to become a reality. And now we're going into July 4th. And this is Independence Day for our country, and everything that Independence Day and the promise of Independence Day and the promise of what this country could be, we know wasn't established from the beginning, but has been allowed for us to progress and improve throughout our history. And so we don't want to go backwards. We want to keep going forwards. We want to keep increasing voting rights and keep improving engagement from everybody in our country, in our state of Texas, so that we are having the best elected officials to help solve the problems we see in our community. So we want y'all to take action. Thank you so much, everybody, for this amazing conversation. Connect with these groups, these amazing leaders and their groups that are organizing and working on this. This is only the beginning. And really, it's not the beginning, because we've been doing this since the Lege session, pushing back, and we've been pushing for Congress to take action before, but this is definitely the next step. And so we're going to be continuing this all the way through 2022 so that Texans are motivated to make sure that they vote and get elected officials that will help our communities and help us move forward for a better and brighter future in Texas. So take action, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks, panelists. Love seeing you guys.
Thank you.